Hey everyone, this is Christopher Brower here with Daily Motor, and today we're driving the 2022 Honda Civic Hatchback. You saw us a little bit earlier this year with the blue Honda Civic sedan that we were driving, but this is the latest rendition of our new gen Civic. And not only is it just a hatchback, they've also redesigned the front a little bit here with a little bit of a honeycomb grille design, so that looks pretty cool. But of course, the main part of this is around the back, where it is a hatchback. And a lot of people I've seen are saying that it looks a little bit like a Kia Stinger, which I guess I can see because you've got sort of this wraparound, almost Dodge style taillight, but I think it does look a little bit more like the Kia Stinger. Not only the taillight, but also the way that the license plate cutout is shaped looks a little bit like it. We've also got dual exhaust exits. Of course, these silver trim pieces on the bumper are not actually real exhaust tips. They're just trim covers. You can see the real exhaust tips in there if you really look. I kind of missed the little center exhaust that the old Sport Touring Civic had. Yes, forgot to mention, this is the Sport Touring. This is the absolute top of the line, most expensive Honda Civic that you can currently get in its latest generation. All of the goodies in here. Is it a leaf? That is a leaf. Goodbye. This is pretty cool. The way that this cargo cover lifts up, or I should say spare tire cover, lifts up, stays out of your way, reveals our spare tire, our jack, a funnel, all that sort of thing. Got a subwoofer back here with our Bose audio system, and then you've also got this little privacy shade that clips in. Goes from side to side. It's interesting. Usually they pull out from here, but I kind of like this design. It's satisfying to move it back and forth there. So that's pretty cool. Quite a bit of room back here as well, especially when you drop the seats. You've got quite a lot of room back here for things. I mean, look at that. It's like a truck. It's like an actual truck bed. Or an SUV. Who needs a CRV when you can just have this? Fits so many things in here. And it's easier to load than a CRV because you've got all this space on top that you can, lift stuff in and out. Very easy to operate, And the seat belts are off to the side here, so you don't have to worry about getting the seat belt stuck between the seat and the little trim panel over here because they're separate. So easy to put down and up as well. Easy to shut that as well. It's a pretty lightweight configuration. Back seat is awesome. There's so much room back here. This is adjusted for my driving position. I am 5'11", and if I sit up, look at all that legroom I've got. Cool stuff. We've got armrest here as well. It's nice and squishy. Two different sizes of cup holders. Stepping up now to the front of the car, I will say also these door handles have such a good feel. They're just very long and solid. That sounded wrong. Anyways, just trust me, the door handles feel nice. They feel more expensive than they are. Kind of fits the vibe of the rest of this interior. And then of course, gives you the little greeting there on your entirely digital gauge cluster. Pretty sweet. I love this honeycomb pattern that runs all the way along the dash, and this is how you control your vents. It's actually very convenient and very just easy to operate. You don't have to worry about not being able to grab on because they've got these little knobs here that make it very easy. This limits your airflow. Actually going to turn this down a little bit to spare everybody's ears with headphones. We've got wireless Apple CarPlay here on the infotainment. I've got that hooked up. It doesn't react the fastest that I've seen. It's a little bit of lag there. As far as, as you can see, as far as the rest of the infotainment, standard Honda stuff. There it goes. This kind of acts the same way that the rest of it does. As I mentioned also, and you've got buttons here as well, but I'm on the home screen so they don't do anything. As I mentioned, we have a Bose audio system. there is already a video up on this Bose audio system here on Daily Motor. Charlie did an in-depth test of the audio system plus some infotainment features. So if you're curious about that, make sure to go check his video out to listen to some Honda Civic Bose action. Down here we have kind of like it's like it's trying to be carbon fiber, but also not. It's a very interesting sort of textured material, but it beats piano black. Got a little bit here on the dash, but this feels like it won't get scratched, and maybe that's why they chose this material, because it's in such a way to where it's not going to get scratched. We've also got our drive mode selector, button to turn off our auto stop start, electronic parking brake, and our auto hold. Climate control panel is its own separate unit, which is great. And we have a wireless charger down here in this little cubby, as well as a line in and another charging port, and an old school charging port right there as well. So this is a very well equipped Honda Civic. I mean, it's like genuinely a baby Accord. And I mean, if you were to look at an Accord from 20 years ago, I mean, it's about the same size as this car. Everything's just gotten a little bit bigger, but the amount of room in the back of this thing is just really great. We've also got a black headliner in here and just a normal traditional style moonroof. I think the black headliner looks really good and grown up, and it sort of just adds to the effect of making this car look even more expensive. All right, well, now that we've got most of that out of the way, let's go ahead and take this Civic hatch for a drive and see what it's like on the road. Alright, so for horsepower and torque, we've got a 1.5 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine that makes 180 horsepower and 177 foot-pounds of torque. And that's mated to a CVT, but you are able to opt for a 6-speed manual transmission in this hatchback. So that's awesome. You can get it with a couple different trims. You can get it with the Sport and the Sport Touring. So you can actually get this exact Civic with a 6-speed manual, and I really wish this test car would have had that. So I think it would have provided us with quite a different driving experience. Though I will say this CVT is a very good transmission. In fact, I think it's the best CVT that I've ever driven on. The way that it behaves is actually quite nice, and it doesn't like rev itself out and get angry at you for hitting the gas, and I think it's actually tuned quite nicely. Otherwise, as far as power goes, it definitely doesn't feel slow. 180 horsepower in a car this small is certainly not bad. I would say that it's adequate, and it fits with the rest of the cars on the market. You do also get a little bit of turbo noise, which is pretty cool. Yeah, not too bad. I will say it does feel very light and nimble, and the ride is great as well. Everything just feels so solid in this car, from the interior materials to just the overall way that it drives, the way that it rides. It almost feels European. I mean, this doesn't feel typical Honda Civic-ish. If you drove the previous gen car and then immediately hopped into this one, it's a totally different vibe. I mean, this car just drives totally different. And I'm saying that in a good way, because it does remind me of something European. I think that that's really cool. I think it's what they were aiming for with this car, because the way that they've styled it is definitely a lot more grown up. If you look at the previous gen Civic, it was, you know, there's crazy lines everywhere, and it had those big red stapler taillights, or lobster, crab claws, whatever you want to call them. But that car just looked crazy, and this car is like a baby Accord. It's just grown up and civilized. I don't know, what do you think? Do you think that the previous gen Civic was better looks-wise, or do you think this one is? I really prefer the looks of this new car, especially in hatchback form. I think that the hatchback spices up the design just enough to where it's something that's still pretty cool to look at. Yeah, soaking up the bumps nicely there. Man, we've just got some very inconvenient traffic on our test route today. A lot of slow-moving drivers. But this gives me a chance to show off something really cool. I'm going to do this before the highway, because I feel like I'm always distracted on the highway talking about the entrance ramp. So we, of course, have radar-guided cruise control in this car. And as you can see, we've got a little little mini Civic hatch in the middle. You can see I'm touching the brakes. You can see the brake lights lighting up on our little mini Civic hatch. When I press this, that will activate our lane keep assist. And it's almost a steering assist to a certain extent. I can sit here and the car will do some steering for me, and it won't alert me for about 20 seconds. Steering required, as you can see. Maybe more like 10-15 seconds. But it does a pretty good job. It's no Kia steering assist to where it'll go around big sweeping corners for you, but it does a really good job of keeping you in the center of the lane, which is something that not a lot of these systems do. You know, a lot of them kind of like ping pong, bounce you back and forth between the lines, and it's really just unsettling. But this one does a really good job of just keeping you in the middle and just kind of taking a natural line. Let's see if it'll do this corner. I don't think it will. Steering required. It did that corner. So anything more extreme than a corner like that, though, you have to steer yourself. Like a corner like this, it can't. It cannot do that. But pretty impressive system. It's nice to see that on a Honda. You know, all good stuff. Also got auto stop start, but if you don't want that, very easy switch to turn that off right by your drive mode selector. Speaking of drive modes, let's go ahead and select sport mode for our entrance ramp here. Oh, so much grip. Exited there at 60 miles an hour. That is a very solid performance from this thing. Man, it handles great. If you got a proper set of sticky tires on this thing, it would be absolutely epic. I'm so excited to drive the Civic Si and the Civic Type R renditions of this new Gen Civic. They're going to be absolutely great. Especially overall with all of the just like styling differences and just the way that the interior fits together and everything. I think that those new cars are just going to be absolutely fantastic. Cannot wait to drive those. Just the base Civic and this hatch and the normal sport touring trim, they're just such great cars. It makes me so excited for the Si and the Type R. You can also change what you want to see in your left-hand side of the display here. I usually have it on my audio, but you can see who you're on the phone with, back. I just keep it on my Apple CarPlay so I can see what song I'm listening to. This side you can customize as well. See your attention level, all of your seats. Oil life set 100%, of course, because this car only has 400 total miles on it. It's a very, very fresh car. Flat out. Yeah, see that CVT kind of behaves just like a normal automatic. It'll simulate gear changes, which is pretty cool. I kind of like that. We've been averaging 30 mpg over the past couple days too. Yeah, overall, this is really just a great car. I mean, when you think of the Honda Civic, you really don't think of something that is this solid and this luxurious inside. For a car in this price, I don't know what's going on over there. For a car in this price range, you really just usually don't get stuff like this. And that's really cool. So this Civic Hatchback Sport Touring starts at $29,000. And that is absolute top of the line. I mean, this has got everything on it, including the CVT and everything like that. You're looking to spend around 30 grand for this car, but I really think that it's worth it for all of this really nice design and materials in here. I think that the $30,000 price tag is definitely justified. But if you really just don't care and you're not into the leather seats and steering wheel and the fancy wheels and things of that nature, you can have the base Civic hatch for just $23,000. Unfortunately, you cannot get the 6-speed manual in the base Civic. You have to go up to the Sport or the Sport Touring if you want to obtain the manual transmission. But honestly, this CVT is really not bad. I know CVTs have a bad rap, especially in the car community, but I think that this CVT is okay. You know, for the average person, this CVT is more than fine. All right, everyone. Well, that's going to conclude our drive today of the 2022 Honda Civic Hatchback Sport Touring. I hope you've enjoyed watching. I really think that this car is overall just very nice, and it's a very solid place in its segment, just interior-wise. I just really, really love what they've done with this interior and exterior. And I like the way it drives, and the CVT is really not so bad. Very cool stuff with this new Civic. And of course we get the message to check our rear seats, as we do in any new car. Alright, one last little walk around here. I think it looks proper in red as well. Although I own 2 red cars, so I'm a little bit biased to red. Alright everyone, thanks so much for watching. This has been Christopher Brower here with Daily Motor, and as always, drive on.